What if I told you that Jesus' most famous parable is not what we think it is? What if the younger son, the one that runs away, wastes everything, and crawls back smelling like pigs, is actually not the spiritual focus of the story? What if the real tragedy is the son who never left home? What if the character the church rarely talks about, the older brother, is actually the one Jesus was preaching directly to? And what if the parable we call the Prodigal Son is actually a story about two lost sons and a father whose love is so offensive, so theologically scandalous, that the religious leaders of his day wanted him dead? We've turned the younger son into a moral lesson. We've turned the father into a sweet grandfather. We've turned the older brother into a footnote. But Jesus didn't tell this story to comfort the broken. He told it to expose the proud. Today, we're going to walk into the fields of ancient Israel, into a Jewish household in the first century, into the theology of grace and law, into the heart of the father, and into the resentment of the son who stayed home and stayed lost.
Most sermons jump straight to a certain man had two sons, but Luke doesn't. Luke shows us why Jesus tells the story in the first place. And this is the theological key to unlocking everything. The Gospel of Luke, chapter 15, verses 1 through 2. Now the tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to hear him. And the Pharisees and the scribes grumbled, saying, "This man receives sinners and eats with them." Stop for a moment.
Let the weight of that settle in. Because eating with someone in the first century Jewish world meant fellowship, acceptance, blessing. Jesus wasn't tolerating sinners. He wasn't preaching at them while keeping polite distance. He was eating with them. This was spiritual intimacy. This was implied invitation. This was relationship. To the Pharisees, the law keepers, the moral guardians, the interpreters of Moses, this wasn't just inappropriate, it was blasphemous. To eat with sinners was to say, you belong at God's table. And so, the scribes and Pharisees grumble. The Greek word is diagogzon, the same verb used in the Septuagint to describe Israel grumbling against God in the wilderness. In Scripture, grumbling is never neutral. It is rebellion against divine mercy. And Jesus responds not with an argument, but with three parables, each more cutting than the last: lost sheep, lost coin, lost sons.
To understand the parable, we must enter the world Jesus is speaking into. In ancient Jewish culture, families were patriarchal. Honor meant everything. Public shame was a social catastrophe. Land was not merely property, it was identity. Inheritance was sacred, a gift for the future generations. The younger son's request, "Father, give me the share of property that is coming to me," is not simply rude. It is not a teenage rebellion. It is not immaturity. In the ancient Near Eastern context, he is essentially saying, "I wish you were dead." This is unthinkable, unforgivable, a total rejection of family, community, and covenant. But what does the father do? He divided his life, bios, between them. He divides not just property, but his life, his identity, his honor, his future stability. The father tears apart his life for a son who despises him. Does that remind you of someone? Someone who would later tear his own life apart for his enemies? For the ungrateful, For the rebels? Already, the father in the story is acting like Jesus. We know this part well, but we often miss its theology. He went into a far country. Every Jewish listener knows what that means. He has gone to Gentile lands, a place of uncleanness, idolatry, impurity. He is cutting himself off from Israel, covenant identity, Torah, family, God. He is choosing self-rule over God rule, the very definition of sin since Eden. He wasted his substance with riotous living. The Greek word is asotos, meaning without salvation, without restraint, in a way that destroys the soul. He becomes what Psalm 14 calls the fool who says in his heart, "There is no God." But then famine. Always famine. When a person separates from the Father, spiritual famine comes. Always. He ends up feeding pigs, the ultimate humiliation. To a Pharisee hearing this, Jesus is describing not just rock bottom, he is painting a portrait of total spiritual uncleanness. This boy is unredeemable, unworthy, beyond mercy. And yet, Luke 15:17, he came to himself. Many sermons claim he repented, but the heart of the story is far more beautiful. He decided to return. Yes, his speech is rehearsed. Yes, he plans to ask to be treated as a hired servant. But notice what this really means. A hired servant was an independent worker, without belonging, without relationship. He is not yet fully grasping the magnitude of his Father's love. He is still practical, cautious, human. Yet he chooses to leave the far country and move toward the Father. And in that moment, everything begins to change. This is the turning point. He takes the first step toward reconciliation. He moves from lostness to seeking, from distance to relationship, even before fully understanding the grace that awaits him. Contrast this with the older brother. He stays at home. He obeys the father externally. He follows the rules. And yet, he remains spiritually distant, trapped in pride and self-righteousness. The genius of Jesus' parable is that the truly lost are not always the obvious sinners. Sometimes the obedient are farther from God than those who have wandered far and finally choose to return. The younger son acts on grace even without fully knowing it. The older son refuses to act even while living under the Father's roof. Here, the theology explodes. God's love validates the courage to return. The first step of turning back, no matter how hesitant, is more aligned with the Father's heart than years of external obedience without love. In this story, the truly prodigal, the one who wastes life, is often the one who stays close but never comes to the Father's heart. The younger son, though flawed, is already walking toward grace. No Middle Eastern patriarch would run, ever. Running meant hiking up one's robes, exposing the legs, losing dignity. It was unthinkable. So why does the father run? Because there was an ancient Jewish custom called the kazaza ceremony. When a son disgraced the family by leaving and losing the inheritance to Gentiles, the village would perform a public ritual. They would break a clay pot in front of the returning son and shout, "You are cut off from your people." The father runs to reach the boy before the village does, so the boy does not face condemnation, so the boy is not shamed, so the boy is not cast out. He runs to absorb the shame himself. He runs to take the son's humiliation onto his own body. He runs to cover the son with his embrace. This is the gospel. This is the cross foreshadowed. This is Jesus himself. The son begins his rehearsed manipulation. "Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you." But before he can finish, "Make me as one of your hired servants," the Father cuts him off. Grace always interrupts our self-salvation plans. Grace always interrupts our attempts to earn. Grace never allows us to return as slaves. The Father puts a robe, identity, a ring, authority, shoes, sonship, and prepares a feast, reconciliation. This is not forgiveness alone. This is restoration. This is adoption. But this is not where Jesus ends, because the Pharisees, the rule keepers, the elder brothers are still standing there. And now Jesus turns directly to them. The Jewish audience listening to Jesus instantly understood something most modern readers miss. This story is not about a rebellious son coming home. This story is a mirror held up to the Pharisees. The older brother is the Pharisee. The older brother is Israel's religious elite. The older brother is the righteous person who believes he deserves the Father's blessing. And Jesus tells this story while these very Pharisees are standing in front of him. Let's go layer by layer.
This is the shocking twist. The older brother obeys externally, but rebels internally. 1, he refuses to enter the feast. In Middle Eastern culture, refusing to enter a banquet was one of the biggest public insults possible. It's not, "I'm upset," it's, "I reject you." And Jesus emphasizes that the Father comes out to him. This is the second humiliation of the Father in the story. 2, he accuses his Father of injustice. He says, "You never gave me a goat." This is not shame, this is rage. He essentially means, "I owe you. I earned more than him. You are unfair. I deserve blessing." This is merit-based faith, not grace-based relationship. 3, he sees himself as a slave, not a son. He says, "All these years I have been slaving for you." Anyone who thinks of their Christian life as slavery is already outside the Father's heart. 4, he hates grace, because grace destroys the illusion of superiority. The older brother's real problem, he doesn't want the younger son to be forgiven. He wants him to pay. This is religious pride exposed.
This is the painful theological core of the story. The older son does not love the father. He loves the father's things, the father's estate, the father's rewards, the father's approval, but not the father. The father says, "My son, you are always with me." But the older son was never with him in heart. The younger son left the home. The older son left the heart. One left physically, the other left spiritually. The younger son came back from a far land. The older son never came back from his pride. Jesus ends the story with the father pleading, "We had to celebrate, because your brother was dead and is alive again." Then the story simply stops. No resolution, no ending, no closure. Why? Because the ending is happening in real time. Jesus is looking at the Pharisees and essentially saying, "You are the older brother. The feast of salvation is open to sinners. Will you join? Or will you stay outside?" The story ends with a door open, and the Pharisees must decide. But here is the deeper shock. In the story, nobody goes outside to bring the older brother in, except the father. In real salvation history, someone else goes out to bring the lost home. Here is where the gospel explodes into view. The parable gives us 2 sons, one openly sinful, one secretly sinful. But it does not give us the son we truly need. What kind of older brother should have existed? The right older brother, the righteous one, would say, "Father, my brother is gone. Let me go find him. Let me bring him back. Let me pay his debt." That's the brother the younger son deserved. That's the brother Israel needed. That's the brother humanity lacked. And Jesus is hinting, "I am that brother. I am the one who leaves the Father's house to seek the lost and bring them home at my own cost. The Pharisees were the older brother, but Jesus is the older brother they failed to be. The self-righteous excluded sinners, but Jesus welcomed them. The religious refused to enter, but Jesus opened the feast. The Pharisees would not lift a finger to save anyone, but Jesus would stretch out his hands on a cross. This is the climax. The younger brother is saved by grace, the older brother is warned by truth, but the world is saved by the true older brother, Jesus Christ. The Father says, we had to celebrate. Why had to? Because grace demands celebration. Because resurrection requires feasting. Because wherever God finds the lost, he throws a feast. But this feast is not automatic. You must enter it. And so the question remains, are you standing inside the feast of grace or outside the feast of pride? The story ends with a choice. Jesus finishes with silence. The feast glows behind the Father, and you are left standing in the doorway. Maybe today, you feel like the younger son. You've run far, farther than you ever planned to go. You carry mistakes, you carry guilt, you carry the weight of choices no one knows about. And you're wondering, would God take me back? The Father is already running. He's not waiting for you to get your life together. He's not asking you to negotiate your way home. He is running towards you right now. Or maybe you're the older sibling. You've been doing everything right, and you're exhausted, secretly angry, secretly disappointed, secretly wondering why serving God feels more like a burden than a joy. Maybe you've been near the house, but far from the Father, and you don't even remember the last time you felt his smile. But hear this. The same Father who ran down the road for the younger son steps out of the feast for the older one. He comes for both. He comes for you. He says, "My child, you are always with me. Everything I have is yours. Come inside. Come home." And that is where the story stops. Not because Jesus forgot to finish it, but because you are the ending. You are standing in the doorway right now. The Father is inviting you. The feast is waiting. Grace is waiting. Joy is waiting. A new beginning is waiting. Sometimes the story you think you know isn't the one that's really being told. Don't scroll away. There's more than meets the eye.
Faith grows when shared. Like to water the seed, subscribe to see it bloom.